Hey, what up? Hey, it's windy. Jimmy cracked corn. I didn't care. Garuda threw some wind sickles my way. I still don't care. I'm gonna talk about something real quick. I think maybe if I talk about it instead of think about it, I'll understand it better. And hey, I'll just put it on the internet, because why not? If I don't have confidence enough to put it on a YouTube video, then I don't have confidence enough to write it in a book. So yeah, let me just explain my situation here. I've had a book in my head for the last 17 years, and I haven't written it yet. Because I don't start writing a story until I have seen, in my mind's eye, every crucial plot anchor point and every single thing that occurs in it. I have to see it in my own head. How else can I expect someone else to see it with the words that I type on a piece of paper, with sterile, cold words that can only be brought to life by the imagination of the one who perceives them? These random symbols in sequential order, able to provoke thought and imagery in another person's mind. I don't want to treat that kind of magic with anything less than it deserves, respect towards, you know what I'm saying? And, for some reason, I don't have a problem imagining what it's like to wield a sword that is literally over one astronomical unit, which is the distance from the Earth to the Sun, to in fact destroy the last star and drain it of all of its fiery energy so that they can burrow down into the core of it as it becomes a red dwarf, swelling up into a massive cosmic scab. Because the Black Cathedral is hiding inside of the last star. All of that kind of stuff. I don't have a problem imagining that. I know exactly how all that's going to go. When it comes to this is going to sound weird, but when it comes to choreographing vehicular combat, I'm pretty good at it, actually. That's all I'm going to say about that. But in that vein, where the vein becomes the most narrow and where I have the most difficult time, is just human, on-foot combat. I always give my protagonist some magical or cybernetically enhanced super capabilities of sorts, and that's not hard for me to write. Crazy things using physics and science as a basis of if you were to actually swing the Khalid Bolg, the sword that becomes as wide as a rainbow when swung at your enemies. Here's the kind of shockwave it would generate. Here's the kind of seismic activity that would cause. Here's what that would do to the local wildlife. Here's how much structural damage that would cause. And here's the size of a crater that would leave. I like to think about all those things. But for me, the most difficult part was trying to figure out how are my protagonist and his pet dragoon supposed to fight this particular enemy, because this is a story of evolution and growing larger, inspired by Gurren Lagann, because it's dope. But at this point in the story, it's like my protagonist and his dragoon, they started out slaying a whelp, and then they fought, like an adolescent dragon, and then they fought, a teenage dragon, and then up to this point in the story, it's like, okay, we're just on our school trip over to the technology-laden and riddled and infested hemisphere of the planet, this Japanese planet that I've designed because I want people to be able to jump 5 feet into the air like anime characters, and athletic people can jump 10 feet into the air. Lower gravity planet, Earth-like, but lower gravity. Because ever since I was a kid, I've always fancied that idea of just, what if What if gravity was a little less? We could jump a little higher. What would an entire society and a civilization look like? What would all the architecture look like to stop burglars when everyone can casually do such ridiculous acrobatics on a low gravity planet? What would the vehicles look like? All those types of things. I spent, well, maybe about 3 years studying the physics of a planet that size with an atmosphere, how close it would have to be to a star given its relative size. I actually spent about 3 years just studying that type of stuff in specific because I wanted to go so far out of my way to design a realistic planet. And it's Neptunial, or perhaps Uranian, where the axial tilt is a complete introvert of what our planet is, where the equator wraps around from the north to south pole relative to what it's actually at. This thing's tilted 90 degrees to one side. And half the planet is covered in technology, and half the planet is covered in forestry and suburbs. Because Japan, depending on what side of the tracks you're from, you get treated much differently. Unless you're from a noble bloodline, like my protagonist is. He is a one-armed teenage samurai going to going to samurai school. I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty much just what it is. And it's my one-armed teenage samurai going to school, and then it's like, let me just give you a rundown of some couple characters. I got the vampiric chronomancer, who she's initially going to pretend to be like a healer, like, oh, you got cut and hurt and your arm's broken. Oh, look, ooh, I did magical hand stuff. Your arm's not broken anymore. I'm a healer. To cover for the fact that she is actually like a 700-year-old space vampire that just looks 17 because anime. I'm trying to make fun of it a little bit, I'm self-aware enough to do that. But nah, she got ulterior motives, or like, she's supposed to be, like the femme fatale who tries to seduce and eventually kill the protagonist. That's like her spy mission. She's from the Black Cathedral in the first place. But then she actually just kind of falls in love with him because I love Tenchi Universe, that stupid, horrible, awful anime that for some reason I can't help but love, but I really do. And I literally cringe at myself for admitting that, but Tenchi was always the kind of character I wanted to be. Similar to when I saw a little bit into Millennium, a show made by the guy who made X-Files, where this dude was just walking through a strip club, and he just had this stoic, stone look on his face, and he's like, look, I'm focused on some other crap right now. I don't have time to be distracted by your sexual advances. Get off of me. I'm busy. That's what I liked about Tenchi Universe. To me, that's what made it different from other harem anime. Because he wasn't going around getting nosebleed all the time being like, oh, boobies, I've never seen those before. Like, I hate that kind of harem anime. I'm not into that, But I like that kind of character. And she's supposed to be like one of those, like, harem characters who's like, oh, look, I am totally cooking breakfast for you in nothing but an apron. And it's like, would you please go put some freaking clothes on already? What the frick are you doing? I'm trying to play some Call of Duty over here. Stop bugging me. That is the kind of character my protagonist is. Also, with much chagrin, and have to be loath to admit, he is partially inspired by the main character from Clockwork Orange. Simply because he's supposed to grow up in a feudal, slightly becoming westernized style era Japan world, where it's still normal for young children and teenagers to go out and witness public executions to get you desensitized to violence in case you ever have to go to war with the other hemisphere of the planet. This is a huge social commentary about Japan, by the way, and how they kind of are slowly phasing out over time their cultural values and ancient crafts in favor of westernized values. That's been continuing since this time, and it's a good pivotal juxtaposition point with which to place an entire planet inside of. But oh, I have spent so much time and effort creating this planet so that I can destroy it completely. And this fight is at one of those pivotal moments where the Earth, well, it's called the Earth, it's not actually the Earth, it gets so utterly broken that it creates a fissure that breaks the entire outer crust of the planet, like when Kirby does a megaton punch correctly and all of Popstar has a crack running through from top to bottom on the outside. The core is still intact, but this is the fight in which that must occur. And just that moment when they're on foot and they have to leap off the top of the building, Alma using one of the 3 rocketized jump charges in her plasma lance to soar upwards so they can land next to one of the dragon's eardrums, because this mother dragon that has now crawled its way out of the ocean is just stomping buildings apart like they are made of toothpicks and paper mache. And so Melvin goes inside one of the eardrums, digging through all kinds of black wax, mold, ancient skeletal carcasses that are still decaying inside of its ear canals, so that Alma can traipse across the other side of its head with the spiked heels on her armored boots, stabbing the tip of her lance through its scales to gain traction as she ballerina dances her way into the other eardrum, and they both start cutting and stabbing straight through the eardrums, meeting inside. Eventually, after the gushing brain fluid contents of this dragon starts spilling out through its eardrums in gushing, nasty, disgusting geysers, spraying all over the glass of the buildings upon which it is now on its back, flailing its head, destroying the foundations and storefronts that once were, as its head and neck are continuously buried beneath increasing piles of rubble and dust debris, choking it out as our heroes eventually meet inside of its hollowed out skull, severing its brain from its spinal column and killing it. That's the best I can do to describe that moment. And as they exit out covered in bile and grime and blood, then the cosmic grandma dragon starts lowering its head through the atmosphere down toward the ground. And I already know what happens after the rest of that. I've already written all that out. But man, that one fight scene, I can describe it, but I can't write it correctly. I can't see every single thing correctly yet, so I haven't been able to write it yet. So, there we are. That's where I'm at in my life right now. Thank y'all for listening. This video is brought to you by Steel Reserve. Please drink responsibly. Been nursing this thing for 3 hours. But there you go. There's where my artist block is. I got a couple more minutes on here. I'll talk some more. I don't care. I love this world that I've created because I intended to destroy it. You know, when I was a kid, I loved building like sand castles on beaches and watching the tide come in and just slowly erode away at it. I love that whole process because to me it encourages me to just build again. I used to build Lego towers, knock them all over like I was Godzilla. There's something about creating something intended to be destroyed that I find cathartic. And then, the rest of the story, I'm not going to mince words with you. It's Harry Potter Samurai School meets Star Trek in space on a world ship inspired by Phantasy Star Online. And the world's going to be full of furries. Because I like furries. I wish that the fur community wasn't so obsessed with sex, but unfortunately, I like furries. I think that they're fun characters, especially to write. I'm going to give you like an example if you were interested in writing at all. Simply write a scene where you have 5 people playing a game of poker and 2 of them are furries. One has dog ears and a dog tail, one of them has cat ears and a cat tail. And just write them playing a game of poker. You will suddenly see why I find furries so interesting to write about. They can't lie in social situations the way a standard human does. It's so much more interesting, honestly. It creates so much more of a varying social dynamic in every kind of character interaction. How can that not be interesting to anyone who gives any crap about writing about such things? I think it's awesome. But, again, the furry community is kind of obsessed with sex a little more than the average person for some reason. Kind of wish that wasn't the case. But here we are. We're living on this planet. But I want to make. I'm also interested in like genetics, and I love this. I love space and all that stuff. So it's like this world ship. It's got like the core of it, like the big dome in the center of it with all the mechanized, red chromatic mechanical phoenix, ship parts that are surrounded by this hexagon sphere energy shield covering a dome. Inside of that, there's like a Yggdrasil tree. There's all kinds of different gardens and groves and all kinds of crazy trees. And the furries start developing like an Ewok community because they're the ones that produce all the food. I have this whole plot line set out about how farmers need more recognition for producing food for the rest of society, who advances the technology so that the farmers can grow the food more efficiently for the rest of the people in the city. And we're all supposed to exist in a harmonious cycle, but we sometimes find so many stupid reasons to look for differences amongst ourselves that we don't advance forward like the way we should. Sorry about that. I have opinions. Anyway, and I've studied about like Dyson spheres and stuff because it's like I hate. I'm gonna say this right now. I hate zombies. I hate zombies. I hate zombie movies. I hate zombie stories. Every single thing that has zombies in it, I hate. You wanna know why? Because it takes away from the original value of what zombies were supposed to be from the Dracula. The zombies were the undead. The whole point was supposed to emphasize that Dracula had such an insane psychic ability to control every single thing with a low willpower around him to manipulate their will, that even the dead had no choice but to obey his mere thoughts and whims. That's why his castle's full of so much stupid, like, locomotive train garbage and all this other, build me a clock tower because I want to be able to tell time, so I know when to go out and bite women in the neck. The zombies built me a clock tower. Things like that. Zombies are supposed to be mindless thralls at the whim of a Dracula. And they just became zombies are symbolism for conglomeratory whores. Oh, it's so deep. God, I've taken dumps that are deeper than that. But I have cool things in mind for, the people living on a Dyson sphere and how they became zombies because of solar radiation, how the furries eventually mutate back into the base animals that they had the genes put into them with, and only humans remain on an animal that is now a space ark. It's not like it's a story of Moses metaphor or anything like that. What are you talking about? As they go towards what I have decided to name this book, which is To the Last Planet. And the second act is like going to the Dyson sphere that's been harvesting energy from the last star in the entire universe, and then putting it into the world ship space school that everyone learns how to be a samurai in. Because when they get to the last planet, it's encapsulated inside of a Death Star, and the last planet is inside the core of it, and they have to fight their way into it in order to sustain their species in existence. Anyway, I gotta go trim this overgrown hibiscus bush back here. I just wanted to take a minute. Felt good to get it off my chest and actually talk about that the way I was able to right now. Thank you for listening. If you listened to the whole thing, appreciate your time. God bless. By the way, if you're wearing sunglasses, you're supposed to salute the corner of your sunglasses. If you're not wearing sunglasses, you're supposed to salute the corner of your brow. If someone doesn't salute that way, stolen valor, just FYI. No one who's ever been through that kind of military conditioning would ever forget how to do that correctly. Just FYI. Bye.